Last night, the NBA Draft Lottery, Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum revealing the Knicks will pick 8th overall, dropping from 6th. The number 1 pick came down to Steph Curry's Warriors or D'Angelo Russell's Timberwolves, and Minnesota ends up with the number 1 overall pick, but there is no clear consensus on who is going to go number 1. Great to see you guys. Obviously, Draft Lottery last night, Wally. Not a lot of consensus as to who's going to go number 1, and there's a lot of parity among the guys who are going to be eligible to be picked. So the question for the Knicks is whether you're 6th, whether you're 3rd, or as it turns out, they're 8th. Does it really make that big a difference?
Well, the Knicks have a lot of needs. They only have 6 guys right now signed really on the roster, so they have to fill out their roster. I think the main thing that we're seeing has success in the NBA game now is shooting and scoring, and also point guard play. So those are things the Knicks really need to fill those voids. I think a silver lining by falling from 6th to 8th is this is a very deep draft. There's no clear-cut number 1 like Zion Williamson last year. And then, yeah, Ja Morant, who you knew was kind of going to be a real impact all-star type player, and also R.J. Barrett hopefully turns into that for the Knicks. This draft is kind of a lot of question marks. You know, there's a lot of solid players, but there's no guys that really stand out as surefire, you know, top NBA guys. So if the Knicks kind of do the right thing, make the right pick, they're going to get an impact NBA starter for a long time that's going to really help their roster. I think they really need shooting. You know, hopefully they can get a guy that can knock down shots. A guy like Tyrese Halliburton can shoot at the point guard position. Guy like James Wiseman is an impact big. Obi Toppin is a guy I loved in college basketball out of a mid-major out of Dayton. He's kind of like a Sean Marion or Amari Stoudemire. If he falls to 8, the Knicks would be happy to get a guy like that. So they're going to get some value at that 8th pick. They just have to make the right pick.
I mean, I think the excitement of draft time is always palpable, right? But this is kind of similar to last year. Last year, after those 3, we had this conversation when we did a 150 while I was reporting from the Combine. It was kind of like, well, what does your team need? And so I think guys get paid big time money to figure out what their team needs. Now, I think if a pick doesn't necessarily pan out at 8, I mean, it's going to be a gamble entirely through the whole first round. So I echo what Wally said. There's not a ton of stars, right? But there's going to be guys that will have the potential to have long-term NBA careers. And again, the fit is going to be paramount.
You know, guys, I was looking this up. So Giannis Antetokounmpo went 15th overall his draft year. Kawhi Leonard went 15th overall. Jokic on Denver was a second-round pick. Wally Donovan Mitchell went 13th overall. When you really get down to it, it's a crapshoot. So you look at the Knicks there. 8th overall. Remember, they have the Clippers number 1 pick in the deal for Marcus Morris, 27th overall. They also have a pick in the second round at 38th overall. So there's a chance here to get a lot of quality young talent.
I know, and it's exciting. And we have a new front office in play, too. Leon Rose has the ability to attract players. He's really well connected in the college game. And to me, you need to build through the draft. You need to build through youth. We're seeing how impactful young players become and how good they become as they continue to grow. The NBA game is a very fast game. It's a very athletic game. You need guys that are coming in with a lot of energy and a lot of athleticism, and there are those type of players in this draft. So that front office has their work cut out for them. I love the hire with Tom Thibodeau. He's one of the most winningest coaches as far as win percentage of all time in the NBA. So he knows how to win basketball games, but he also needs the players to do it, because players are what win games in the NBA, not coaches. I mean, coaches help kind of you know, move the needle you know, in certain instances, but you need impact talented players, and the Knicks have to get some guys like that in this draft with their 3 draft picks.
What do you guys think about the number 1 overall pick, Monica? I mean, if you're Minnesota, remember they have D'Angelo Russell. Does that mean that LaMelo Ball maybe doesn't go number 1 overall? Again, with no clear consensus, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all shakes out.
So that's my theory, right? I don't think that LaMelo Ball and D'Angelo Russell work. I've heard questions about how focused LaMelo Ball is. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to see a ton of him because he's playing overseas. But I talked to someone who I know is very close to that family, and he said his personality off the court is very similar to his personality on the court, in that he's the youngest of the 3 ball kids, so he works very hard. He's been bullied. He's always played with older guys. So when he steps on the floor, he has something to prove. I don't think that necessarily fits with the D'Angelo Russell. But a guy like Anthony Edwards, or for me personally, and I know this is a little bit odd, I love Obi Toppin too as well, Wally. So I can see a guy like Obi lining up with Cat in D'Angelo Russell. I know that might be a little bit of an odd pick at number one because people are questioning what position he'll play in the NBA. But again, this thing comes down to fit. And I just don't see where LaMelo Ball needs to be running with D'Angelo Russell.
My number one pick, guys, is definitely Anthony Edwards. I love his game. That guy has a stroke to die for, shoots the lights out of the basketball. He's a little young. He's got to mature a little bit, but so do a lot of 18, 19-year-olds. But you looked at the way he handles the ball, the way he can get his shot off, step back threes, and his stroke is just as smooth as they come. Really reminds me of Bradley Beal. That would be my number one pick. If I was the Minnesota Timberwolves, I would take Anthony Edwards. You need shooters. You need scorers. That's my guy.
So while I hear you, and Anthony Edwards definitely can get it off, but I feel like a lot of times he's not necessarily connecting, especially from behind the arc. I think he's got a lot of upside, like you said. I love the way he's able to finish with contact, but in terms of really mixing it up, I don't like getting to the rim downhill. I just think there's a little bit more there, and his shooting probably could improve. He has no problem launching it, though. We saw that.
Wally, of course, back in his day, went 6th overall to Minnesota. The draft evaluation process during your time, obviously, Wally, is going to be a lot different than it is now during this COVID era. So how difficult is it going to be for teams to assess who they might be drafting?
It's going to be harder. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off a combine type situation. It doesn't look like they will, where you're going to kind of be able to see all guys working out at once and get your hands on them. I think individual workouts probably will be able to carry on. I think you can get a guy in the gym and you can work him out and put him through shooting drills and shuttle runs and speed and athleticism type stuff. And then, maybe you can have a socially distanced dinner or meal with him just to kind of get to know him as a person, as long as it's outside. But it's not going to be like when I worked out. I worked out with Ron Artest, James Posey with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we all played one-on-one. We were doing drills, we were playing one-on-one, we were going at each other. It was a competitive workout. I don't know if teams are going to be able to pull that off. We'll see in this COVID landscape. But, you just have to do your due diligence, and you have to rely on a lot on your scouts and what they saw in college and overseas in the past couple months and last year.
I had a chance to talk with Jared Butler out of the Big 12 about his process, and they're doing a lot of this. The interviews are on Zoom so far, and so we're all adjusting to this new normal. This process is no different.
I wonder if the players will have a background like Wally when they do their Zoom interview. Wally, maybe you can give them that space, and they'll move up in the draft.